Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is Thursday, the 7th of August, 2025. These are the stories that we will try to understand and decipher during the course of our show. We'll begin with the U.S. Imposing a tariff of 50%. They had already imposed 25%, and they have added 25% to that to make it a staggering 50% tariff on India. It's going to impact their economy, and this was India extremely worried about. What impact is it going to have as far as the region is concerned? Also to Pakistan, will Pakistan be able to benefit from this with its 19% tariffs that the US has imposed in its textile and other industries, as well as what we'll try to understand during the course of this first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns Pakistan and its economy and the PSX that were surged past 146,000 in the beginning of the day and ended at 145,000 plus. This is a great news. Even yesterday it had surged past 145,000, and our Prime Minister had congratulated the PSX and Pakistan for having achieved this milestone. Milestones is what the PSX has been achieving since the last few months, and this is great for Pakistan's economy and shows investor confidence in Pakistan's market. Next, we are going to talk about the Israeli atrocities in Gaza that continue unabated. The number of people who have been massacred by Israel has crossed 61,000, and the people injured has crossed more than 120,000. The fact also remains that the actual figures are still unknown because as per the Lancet organization, it might be around 180,000. The different countries across the world are trying somewhere, somehow, in one means or the other, to move to a ceasefire and to let humanitarian aid enter as it should within the Palestinian territory. But this is being deliberately blocked by Israel, although it says to the contrary. But the reality of the fact is that the food, water and medicine are not reaching the people as they should. And if they do, when they go to receive those aid, they are fired upon by the Israeli forces. This and more will be discussed in our third segment. Then we are going to talk about Hiroshima, Japan's Hiroshima, that is marking 80 years since the US atomic bombing. This happened at 8:15 a.m. on that very day, and at 8:15 a.m. also the entire Japan stood silent for a minute to observe and to remember those who perished. 55,000 people attended this year's 80 years anniversary of the Hiroshima bombing. This is going to be our fourth story, and our last story today, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the Apple CEO Tim Cook, who has gifted Donald Trump a plaque with 24-carat gold base. Now, we all know that Donald Trump had imposed a lot of pressure on Tim as well as other leaders from the business sector in Pakistan, in the US rather, to bring their business to the US instead of retaining their business in countries such as India. And this is what he has done. Tim Cook has said that they are going to start working in the US as well for hundreds of billions of dollars worth of industry that is going to be put into place within the US, and that is what the US President Donald Trump is extremely happy about. This is the last story for today. Begin with our first segment, and that concerns the 50% tariff that the US has now imposed on India. This news broke in last evening, and we did also talk about it a little bit in our show yesterday, but we wanted to highlight a little bit more tonight as well. But we'll highlight that in more detail after this report.
Tensions between Washington and New Delhi have reached their lowest point in years as President Donald Trump slaps a massive 50% tariff on Indian imports, the highest rate faced by any country. This final blow comes after weeks of escalating warnings. President Trump had repeatedly threatened action over India's continued import of Russian oil and arms, and now he's delivered. An additional 25% tariff has been added, bringing the total to 50%, a decision that blindsided many, especially given the once warm rhetoric between Trump and Prime Minister Modi. India, already grappling with a slowing economy, now finds itself pushed out of key global supply chains. And with bilateral trade at over $200 billion, this tariff is expected to trigger ripple effects across industries, from manufacturing to agriculture. Despite offering concessions on U.S. industrial goods and autos, India refused to budge on farm and dairy products, politically sensitive sectors that feed hundreds of millions. That refusal now comes at a steep cost. For Indian businesses and consumers, this isn't just a diplomatic diplomatic spat. It's a direct economic hit. From higher prices to falling investor confidence, the fear is real. And as India tries to balance ties with both the U.S. and Russia, its foreign policy is now under immense pressure. New Delhi calls the tariff unfair and unjustified, but for now, the damage is done, and the world watches as a once celebrated partnership teeters on the brink.
We've been joined by economist Naeem Siddique to discuss more on that. Naeem Saab, thank you very much for joining us. Naeem Saab, is the fear real for India after the imposition of the 50% tariff?
Thank you, sir. Yeah, definitely. At the moment, Indian economy is really in trouble, and I think that Modi's gambling has badly backfired.
All right.
And after especially his oil deal with Russia has now triggered a 50% U.S. tariff bomb on India, which will badly hit their economy in a serious way.
Right.
And what I feel at the moment is now that the reason why President Trump is not happy with India is this. Though 3 years before, India was buying oil from Russia and it was welcomed by the U.S. at that time, but now as Mr. President Trump has changed his philosophy that he wants that we are the topmost energy producer in the world, and we should be the globally supplier of the oil in the world and the global supplier of the
Naeem Saab, if I'm not wrong, I think Donald Trump was also saying that what India is doing is that it is buying the oil from Russia, refining it and then selling it at a
selling
profit.
it again to the other places. Okay, that is a question mark again, but let's see how much oil India is buying from Russia. That's the important question. In last 6 months, India has bought $22 billion of oil from Russia, which is 35% of their total consumption. So every they are importing 1.75 million barrel of oil per day. So it's a huge, and the oil as compared to America and the other countries, the Russian oil is cheaper, and also I think there is some barter arrangement is available over there, which is now hurting the U.S. economy in a way that they feel that total export of India to USA is 79 to 80 billion dollars. And there is a big trade deficit for America in it. So they feel that India should also import equal level of products from us, so that we should also go into India should give us access to their economic corridors, access to the business corridors.
That is what India does not want, especially when it comes to their farming sector.
Yes.
This is what they want.
So at the moment they are more concerned. So now they have put a tariff of 50% on them. Actually, if you see in the broader perspective, then we see it's a global chessboard reorganization.
All right.
So they're reorganizing the global chessboard, and America feels that they can make, by putting tariff for all the countries, including Canada and China and other countries, they can make about $900 billion.
All right.
So this is the target of that they want to make $1 trillion out of it. And if you see in the report that Apple has pledged to invest $100 billion also in the U.S. market. So basically, you can feel it is a transit period between import and the production. When they are importing from
it's not 100 billion, it's $600 billion that Tim Cook wants to invest in.
And they want that all the American companies to invest in America, make the factories over there, produce the
as he said, make America great again.
He wants to make, it's an old slogan of Trump that make America great, or the great
again.
America. So in this transit period, maybe it will take 4 or 5 years.
All right.
Then in this transit period, maybe the goods will be expensive in America for the time being. But then again, the American market, the American buyer will switch to the areas where there is a lesser tariff, like Pakistan, like Vietnam, like Bangladesh, because they have. So I am seeing that India, particularly in this region, will have a greater loss of it. And I think in the global perspectives, America want to bring a new global order, and particularly about the BRICS countries. You see that Brazil and India, they are equally hit by the 50% tariff, and then Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These are the countries of the BRIC and other countries. And if you see that there is about more than 4 billion population in the BRIC community. and they are not into the G7. So this is also America feel that in future if they they trade in the Russian currency or in the yuan or in other currencies, it will hit the American dollar. And if you see nowadays, American dollar is under pressure, and globally it's getting down. So
and that is, you feel that is one of the reasons why Trump has imposed 50% tariff.
Yes.
Mohammed Umar also joins us all the way from the US. Umar, thank you to have joined us. Umar, Naeem Siddique Saab says that the US is moving towards a global chessboard reorganization. Now, in all of this comes India and the 50% tariff that has been imposed. Do you feel that India's strategic economy now stands exposed as a liability? Do you feel that Narendra Modi played on the wrong pointers as far as his chessboard organization or reorganization is concerned? And do you feel there is still some kind of leeway for India to have some kind of discussion with the US, because the 25% extra tariff will be imposed after a couple of weeks? So does that leave space for India to maybe realign itself as per the US mindset?
Umar, definitely the additional 25% kicks in after 21 days, as you just mentioned. That would bring the total tariffs to 50%. This, I would not consider a chessboard move or a reorganization of diplomatic ties or anything like that. This is directly, if you read the executive order, this is directly a punitive trade measure in response to India's oil purchases from Russia and its impact on the ongoing war in Ukraine. It mirrors what you've already seen the US has imposed on Brazil, making them the only two countries that are currently facing 50% US tariffs. Now, you asked if there is an opportunity for India to make an impact before the remaining 25% hits. Yes, definitely. This is targeting specifically, their textile industry, their jewelry making industry, other goods. What India can do, and there has been precedent in the past. In 2018, India engaged in high-level negotiations when Trump revoked their generalized system of preference benefits, their GSP benefits. Now, it didn't lead to full restoration of those, but it preserved key exports. In this scenario, obviously, India is not going to, and I think your guest just said 35 to 36% of their oil imports come from Russia. They will not be able to quickly pivot away from those agreements and the next tranche of oil that's coming in. But what India can do is diplomatically engage with the US to try to buy more time. So extend that 21 days, maybe into 90 days. The other thing that they're likely to do, which other nations have done, specifically the EU did, is challenge the US tariff measures in WTO. And that unlikely, because of the existing caseload delays or political pressures that are there at the WTO, is not going to have an impact. The last thing India can potentially do is they can retaliate with their own tariffs. The United States imports a lot of agricultural products from India, specifically almonds and walnuts. They import industrial goods and then obviously technology components and IT. So what you can see is that India could put retaliatory tariffs in place while they negotiate with the United States diplomatically and bring the case up to the WTO.
All right. Stay with us. We've also been joined by Ali, who's also one of Pakistan's leading economists. Sultan, thank you very much to have joined us. Sultan, now that the 50% tariff has been imposed and there's a lot of pressure on India, and of course the prices are going to be increased as far as their jewelry sector is concerned or their textile sector is concerned, does that leave the space open for competitors such as Pakistan?
Of course it does. And I think looking into the recent past, there is one parallel example where Pakistan did use this opportunity quite well, and that was during the COVID pandemic. So Pakistan's textile industry, which was going through a very bad patch, so suddenly it remained functional and it got the orders, so it fulfilled those orders, and suddenly the lot of energy came in and our engine got running. Now this is similar opportunity where there would be panic, and in terms of new orders, because Pakistan has locked in a trade agreement. So especially in the coming few months, till the time India and US, they come to any agreement. So there's this window in which our textile industry can lock in few agreements.
All right.
Right? We do not have a good jewelry sector to compete with India, but we have a solid textile sector. So Pakistan is in similar boat with other countries such as Vietnam and Bangladesh.
All right. So Pakistan has that opportunity and it could take advantage of that.
It has the capacity.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Naeem Saab, what immediate and long-term economic consequences in your point of view could India face from this tariff escalation?
Definitely, I feel that in the long term, if Pakistan make a long term strategy also, and then we can revamp our industrial structure and can ask our industrials and our industry to bring in the new machineries and then make a more better market and production in the field of, particularly in the value added products. You know, most of our export is not the value added products. As you see, the Bangladesh and China are the only two countries which are exporting more than $120 billion of the value added garments to the world. So therefore, I see that tariff is not only one factor. Other than that, we have the utilities and the taxation is very high, and if the government can sit across with the private sector and the public sector, and they can collaborate and see how they can find an opportunity out of this disaster. And if you see one more thing, that China is also in a tense situation with the US about these tariff issues, and I think that they will also come up with a with a high tariff rate, and that is again an opportunity for the Chinese company to come and invest in Pakistan and then export from Pakistan, and definitely it will be very helpful for them also, and they can bring in the semi finished goods in Pakistan, and then here they can assemble that and export to the other world. As you are seeing that in Dubai and other areas where duty free shipments are being placed, and there are big warehouses and from where they are exporting to all over the world. So I think with this CPEC, now it is a time to get the best benefit out of it, and ask our neighboring peer countries who have the bigger tariff, they can come over here, invest over here, and there's a difference of the labor 1 into 5. We have $100 and the China has about $500. So I think by providing a better infrastructure and reducing the cost of doing businesses, and definitely giving incentive to the industry, and definitely, as the doctor said, that we have a very short term and long term future, because I don't know when Trump can change his mood and when they can go into the different negotiations. So this is an opportunity to get hold of the international buyers and tell them that we can provide you the better product, but especially we have to go into the value addition. This is a time that we should export the fully manufactured products instead of exporting the raw cotton or something, the thread or other things. So therefore, I think this is the right time that the government and the public, and particularly if you've seen that now we have a very good relationship with Iran also. The president came over here, and we are thinking about having a $10 billion reciprocal business with them, and there is a lot of opportunity in the Central Asia as well. So I think Pakistan has a very good opportunity, and in this disaster which India is facing, we are the only country who can get advantage of that.
All right. We are the only country that could take advantage of that, and we should move into value-added products more. Umar, coming to you, do you feel this increase in tariff of 50% is signaling a broader shift in the US foreign policy as far as India is concerned, especially in reference to India-Russia ties? I'm not just referring to the import of oil from Russia and then exporting it to other countries after refining it. I'm also talking about Indian parts that have been found in Russian drones in this Russia-Ukraine conflict, and this has been highlighted by none other than the Ukrainian military leaders. Do you feel this is also something that is irking the US, and that is why the US and President Trump are realigning their foreign policy vis-a-vis India?
Omar, it comes as no surprise that India has been partnering with Russia on building technology that's used in the war zone in Ukraine. Exactly 10 years ago today, in 2015, I'd written an article about how the Indians helped the North Koreans develop their intercontinental ballistic missile technology. All of these things will surface as the friction between India and the United States grows. India also had offered and was importing oil from Iran. They were helping build the Chabahar port, which at that time was against US sanctions. And India manipulated the numbers to show what percentage of oil it was importing from there. Obviously, the broader impact of this is that the damage is done. The world now sees that the branding that they had given India, which was that it is lower geopolitical risk in comparison to its neighboring countries, that is now that has been damaged. And the supply chain diversification is going to be a topic not only in the United States, but other capitals around the world with the threat of these additional 25% tariffs to be put in place in the next 21 days. So there's definitely a broader impact. The political or diplomatic relationship, that we have to see how that's going to be impacted. As you've seen, India has done, with Modi's continuous trips to the United States, and if during the Obama administration, the dozen so trips that happened there, India has changed its domestic liability laws to allow for the United States to build nuclear power plants in India for energy. So all of these things are in transit, and we'll have to see what the broader impact is going to be diplomatically, politically in the region. But I guarantee you, India is going to come back with to the United States, and they're going to say, look, we are your allies against China. We are your ally. They're going to try everything that they can diplomatically, but at the end, I think it's going to have very little impact. And if you just give me 1 second, what I think Pakistan should do now is we need to push hard for commercial diplomacy in Washington and New York. And in addition to what your guest already said, we need to target the US importers that have been directly affected by the tariffs on Indian goods. And we need to rebrand ourselves as a reliable trade partner with lower geopolitical risk. This will help strengthen our relationship, and we need to ensure that we can facilitate the trade of goods between Pakistan and the United States by ensuring that we have transparent processes at customs, port logistics, and we improve our delivery lead times.
All right. Now that we know exactly what Narendra Modi's foreign policy narrative of India as a reliable Western partner used to be and is no longer, do you feel we will see a shift in the foreign policy narrative of, say, the EU as well? Or will India change its foreign policy narrative to suit the US in the coming days? What's your intuition?
So we're going to see the Indian diplomatic machinery at work. They're going to be pushing for more and more anti-China sentiment. Omar, the other concern, as you know, I'm in the United States. One of the concerns I have for elderly US citizens is the largest scam centers. The largest scam centers are located in Calcutta, India. So we are going to start seeing India also use that the ability for them to scam elderly US citizens. And that is going to go up on the rise. And I'm sure law enforcement's already going to be prepared, ready to tackle that. So India is going to come out all guns blazing. They're going to try diplomatically. They're going to try through indirect manners using, the companies that are illegally trying to hack US commercial entities that are trying to scam senior citizens. We're going to start seeing them push this defense argument that, look, we are your first responders against China, but will that have any effect? Because again, the measures, if in the executive order that called for an additional 25% tariffs, were directly tied to the war in Ukraine, and India, by importing oil from Russia, was impacting and directly contributing to Russia's continued war in Ukraine.
All right. Sultan, I'd like to understand how, in your point of view, because you understand Pakistan's economy better than maybe a person like myself does, how can or how should Pakistan renegotiate favorable terms for its economy, and how should it move forward to fill the gap that might be now left by India?
I think it's not about renegotiating. I think our government recently did a tremendous job in locking in the 20%. So actually we have been ahead of the game, and we have rushed in with a lot of clarity, and we are locked in a very favorable tariff regime. So we are locked in at around 20%. 19%, right? So at this point in time, there are two things to be seen. Number one, it's not just that we are at a differential from India. So India was initially 25%, then now additional 25%. And if a situation does not go in favor of India, it can further escalate, right? Because these are negotiation tactics,
of course,
by the Trump administration. So now this is the time for our industry to come up, right? So I think the government has done its job in securing this, right? And why I say we are really well positioned in terms of textile sector. So our textile sector has been exporting for decades, and US has been the key market, right? Especially in terms of knitwear. So there was a knitwear boom in the 1990s. So we have, not only we have our textile industry set up, we also have formal buying houses that work with the top US brands, right? So the whole supply chain is set up. The contacts are there now for, I would say, rather for 2 generations, right? So we can quickly ramp up and capitalize on that. On the other fronts, then it's not a quick fix, right? So in terms of this, there's an opportunity. I think India's brand has been damaged recently. Its credibility has really been damaged, right? So India previously used to use its credibility to push Pakistan into a corner, right? And they would dominate. So now I think US buyers would be more open to countries like Pakistan, and Pakistan will have an opportunity, or Pakistani companies will have an opportunity to export. So we can capitalize, so we can use this momentum. Because one comment I would like to make is that another parallel would be in terms of India's tariff. So it's a fluctuating situation. So we know China's tariff, it started to go up, it went up to 145%. Then there was sort of a truce. So on 12th of May, it was decided that 30% would be the tariff, right? And 30% tariff includes 10% plus 10%, 10%. So different penalties. Now, on 27th of June, it was extended for another 90 days. So while China and US are negotiating. So we should not be surprised that tomorrow we get a news that, okay, so there's an interim agreement, right? But this creates a window of opportunity, and it also raises risks for the US importers, right? So India as a source from which they would do their sourcing, right? So now they would want to also diversify and think that, okay, in any rapidly changing situation, do they have any alternatives or not? So this is an opportunity where we can go in and we can make space. And in terms of our industrial base, I think our industrial base is not as big as India's, right? So,
but is that industrial base, Sultan, ready to take on this?
That's exactly what
challenge?
I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. So one is our capacity use, right? So there is a lot of market has opened up, and we do not have as much capacity to make full use of it, right? But our 100% capacity will be used.
All right. All right.
So for example, if we can, there's a market of additional 100 tons has opened up, and our production capacity is of 30 tons. And currently we only export 12 tons, right? So now we can ramp up from 12 to 30. So that's, our exports will grow in multiples, right? However, there's an even bigger opportunity.
All right, there are bigger opportunities. And, you know, when you look at investor confidence as far as Pakistan is concerned, we see that reactive being shown through the PSX. That is increasing with, you know, literally every passing day.
I think one comment I'd like to make here is that this also makes Pakistan a good investment destination. So previously all the eggs would be would previously it was China, a lot of investors from US, then it was alternative was India's, right? So now Pakistan is also would be looked at, in terms of risk management, right? So some investors, Pakistan would become a more attractive destination.
Already for the US, Pakistan is very attractive as far as minerals are concerned. So yes, I'd like to, Naeem Saab, first ask you the question, then you can add to any other comment that you wanted. This PSX record-breaking rally of over 145,000, it went to 146,000 something intraday, and then it ended the day at 145,000 and something. How is it directly or indirectly related, in your point of view, to investor confidence?
You see, currently the economic environment of Pakistan, that investor confidence is increasing. And particularly when you see these deals with Iran and then this USA and to the other countries, that the investor is now gradually getting back its confidence. And you see the market has gone up to 146,000, which is a landmark, and I think it will very soon it will cross 150,000 plus. And energy sector, banking sector, cement sector, IT sectors, all the sectors are performing so well. And if you see that we are having a trade of more than 1 billion shares a day, and that is a very healthy activities. And the way this Pakistan stock market is capitalizing, that I hope that in future we will have very soon we will have the international investors, because from last 1.5 years you see our currency is very stable, and that currency stabilization is a very important factor for the foreign investor to jump in, and so that they can take out their profits. Instead, if the currency is depreciating, then they feel fear that how we will take our profit from the country. So only because of these 4-5 big sectors which are performing so well, and I hope that in future also we will have the international investor to come in this country. And particularly we were talking about these American tariff at the moment. We are in a situation of fear and pleasure in a way, but it's a time to take risk. And you see, the business is all businesses in the hand of the private sector. So I think at the moment Pakistan government should talk with the Pakistan Business Council, FECCI, the chamber, and find out the top business industries in the country and appoint them as a commercial counselor or the commercial representatives or the business representatives in the different states of America, and they can go and explore the market over there. I think the private sector can boost their businesses, and definitely they can generate a lot of revenue in it. And particularly at this time, if we have a good surplus export available in our country, then we have a good opportunity, and we have to make a big warehouses now in USA, so that our supply chain can be managed in a way that because it takes a long time to for the shipment from here to USA. So if we have our own warehouses over there, like in Dubai, in their duty-free zones, then it will be very easy to hit the market over there. And at this point of time, as you see, Pakistan has the opportunity to jump in, because American buyers are looking for those countries who have a lower tariff, and the Pakistan, Bangladesh, Vietnam, these three countries are at par at the moment by 2019 and 20. So here it is again a healthy competition for Pakistan as well, that in which areas, in which tariff lines we can make a better export, we can make better production, and we can find a better market. And we have to see what we were exporting and what in competition of India we can export, which India cannot export. So that is the areas we have to find out. We should sit down and we should find the market, and I hope that we can increase our export to USA from $5 billion to $8-9 billion in within next 1.5 or 2 years.
All right. Let's see whether and how this happens as well. But for that, of course, we'll have to be more robust in our approach as well. Sultan, coming to the revitalization of the PSX, when you ask economic experts, and you are one of them, but others talk about a firm economic outlook, they talk about the strengthening of the rupee, they talk about government subsidies for fully funded remittances schemes, rising global crude oil prices, they talk about a renewed commitment to resolving circular debt in the power sector, easing industrial tariffs, financial restructuring. Is that enough? What other reasonings could you give for a continuous stability, let's put it that way, as far as our stock exchange is concerned?
So I would like to break it into in terms of continuous stability for the economy, which is leading to the continuous rise in the PSX. So if we look at over the last 5 years, right? So PSX it was initially range bound between, you can say, 30,000 to 45,000, right? So it kept in that zone, and that's a significant jump, So on a base of 30,000 going up to 45,000, that's like a 50% jump,
Agreed.
right? So it kept in that range. Then we saw devaluation, right? So based on the devaluation, if we can, for ease of calculation, if we can say from 150 rupee dollar to a $300, so it's like its value went to half, right? So PSX had to double in terms of its dollar value to come back to the same value, right? So if we say if the previous peak was 45,000 and then reaching 90,000, it means that the impact of devaluation of rupee went away. So in dollar terms, the PSX came back to the same value.
Understood.
Now I think so that is where the story is really encouraging. Not only it recovered in terms of dollar value, right? From 90,000 now to 145,000. So then you can say there's another 50% increase that we have seen over the last period. So it indicates that there has to be a lot of confidence that because investors are not kidding, right? So because they're going to lose their money.
Exactly.
Right? So we can joke around, we can have comments,
but they don't.
Okay,
but they
so
don't
maybe my analysis is right or wrong.
But
for them, they lose real money or make real money.
And that is so true, Sultan. The fact is that this investor confidence becomes because they feel that they can invest their money in different sectors in Pakistan because of the situation that currently present in Pakistan. We're a bit short of time, but thank you so very much, Sultan. Thank you very much, Naeem Siddique Saab, to have joined us as well and to have enlightened our evening with so much of economic talk. Well, just stay with us for a couple of more minutes while I end the show. Our next story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the Middle East and Gaza in particular. Umar, I'd like to understand. Israel's war on Gaza has killed officially 61,258, wounded 152,045 people so far. At least 98 Palestinians, including 51 aid seekers, have been killed in the last 24 hours alone. People are starving to death. The number has risen to 197. That includes around 96 children. When and how do you feel a genocide like this can end?
Omar, the current situation that Gazans are facing, extreme starvation, malnutrition, disease. As you mentioned, the numbers are unimaginable of those that have died in the last 24 hours, especially children. What's currently happening, clearly this genocide is getting more and more worse every day, and there is greater diplomatic efforts now we're seeing. The recognition of the Palestinian state by more and more countries is a powerful step towards ending this conflict. And several nations, including in the Middle East, Europe, Latin America, they've already recognized Palestine. And even in the United States, we've seen in the House, which is the Congress, the legislators where they sit, have called on President Trump to formally recognize the Palestinian state. Recognition is going to go a long way in helping us provide a pathway to peace and giving Palestinians a legitimate voice in global discussions and peace negotiations. You've already seen, I think the last show we discussed how countries like Germany and France are pushing for stronger diplomatic efforts, and additional countries like Turkey and Jordan are advocating for an immediate recognition of Palestine. These are going to be crucial in showing solidarity with the Palestinian people, not just those that are suffering in Gaza, but those that are suffering in the West Bank also. and work towards a long-term solution that respects the rights of all people in the region. Just to conclude on what your question was, the situation, yes, is urgent. There is a humanitarian crisis that's taking place right now, and it requires immediate action. In addition to what the international community is doing, there is the larger organizations, the nonprofit organizations like Doctors Without Borders and others are also pushing to provide additional aid. They're pushing for peace in the forums that they have access to, and they're obviously, again, pushing for the recognition of Palestine. And only through these efforts can we hope to see an end to the violence and a future where both Palestinians and Israelis can live in peace and security. So it's a devastating situation.
We can only wish, Umar, but the fact is that looking at the current situation, the future, or at least the near future, seems extremely bleak. But as we say, there is still a light at the end of the tunnel, with so many countries that are going to formally recognize Palestine in the month of September. Thank you very much, Umar, to have joined us as well. Before we end the show, two quick notes on two stories that are making the rounds across the world. First, of course, 80 years since the Hiroshima's bombing by the U.S. was observed solemnly by the people in Japan. There was a 1-minute silence. And of course, the fact is that 55,000 people gathered in Japan in order to observe this day. We should also remember this day because 140,000 people died because of this very event that was catastrophic, to say the least, and that of course happened at the end of the Second World War in 1945. Last story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the Apple CEO Tim Cook, who has gifted Donald Trump a plaque with 24-carat gold base. This is not the only thing that he has gifted Donald Trump and the US government. He has also said that he is going to invest an additional $100 billion US dollars in US jobs and suppliers, and is committing to US investments to $600 billion US dollars, and that is what was also talked about as praiseworthy by Donald Trump when he was talking to Tim Cook in the Oval Office. So as we are seeing the effects of the different kinds of pressure tactics by the US President Donald Trump are reaping their benefits, as far as Donald Trump himself said, make America great again. With that, we come to an end of today's Newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with news as it pertains to us here in Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.